Hello and welcome to my p1.p2. First of all, I'm going to identify how organisations plan recruitment using internal and external sources. So, first of all, they have to go through recruitment planning and they have to decide, for example, the reason for vacancy. So, within both, I found both organisations to be very similar. So, there isn't much of a difference. So, for example, the reason for vacancy was usually because an employee was leaving, um, an increased volume of business, they wanted different work, maternity cover, or long term sickness. So this led me to why do companies decide to recruit? This was due to a loss of a past employee, or they need more help on the team. Like maybe it's the business has got really busy and they need more people working, or in terms of ship classes have got too big and they need more people like to split the classes up. This can be done through internal recruitment. This is recruitment that happens within the business. Someone that's already employed by the company and perhaps deserves promotion or looking to change sectors within the business. Or you can do it via external sources of recruitment, for example, using a job centre, consultants, or recruitment agencies. However, most of the time they can charge quite a high price, especially if they choose to the keep them over a long period of time and they charge a fee for overall hiring them. And this leads me to cost and time considerations for external sourcing. So, as I said, they can charge quite a big third party source like price, and it can cost a lot of money for the business. For example, within Shiplake, having to pay a part time teacher or a temp whilst waiting for a new one to come in can be quite expensive, similar to McDonald's having to train someone only part time, especially if they know it's only temporary. It's going to be wasting someone else's time while they wait for a new one, and they've got to do the whole recruitment and training program again. So now I'm going to explain the impact of the legal and regulatory framework on recruitment and selection activities. So currently, there's lots of different acts that when recruiting, recruiters have to think about. So, for example, you've got the current UK and EU legislation, the Sex Discrimination Act of 1995 to 1997. This act came into force in 1975, and this makes the act makes it unlawful to treat women or men less favourable in the employment. So this means you cannot judge someone whether they're female or male, as it shouldn't make any difference. Women are just as good as men, men are just as good as women, etc., etc. And so training and related matters, education, and the provision of goods, facilities, and services on the grounds of the gender or marriage. Then you have Race Relations Act 1992. This is where you cannot discriminate someone due to their race when a person treats another person less favourable on the grounds of colour, race, nationality, ethnic or national origins, for example, refusing to serve ethnic minority clients or ignoring racial harassment of employees. So if someone's being treated unfairly due to their race, that should be flagged up and they have a right to say something. And this is also linked to Equal Pay Act of 1970. This means that everyone should have equal pay and prohibits any less favourable treatment between men and women in terms of pay and conditions of employment. So next leads me to the Disability Discrimination Act of 1995 and 2005. This is the main disability discrimination law. It bans disability discrimination by employees against disabled job seekers. So this means that everyone should have equal rights and it shouldn't matter if you're disabled or not. You should all be treated the same. And by service providers against disabled service users. It is most notable for imposing a duty on employees and service providers to make reasonable adjustments for disabled people to help them overcome the barriers they may face in gaining or remaining in employment. So this is just saying that if they do have some sort of disability, maybe perhaps make leeway or try and help them in a sense, because they should get the same opportunities as we do. There's also the European Working Time Directive. This is to protect workers' health and safety in working hours, and they must meet minimum standards applicable throughout the EU. So this is making sure that no one's doing too many hours, and there's a maximum hours you can work someone. They shouldn't be working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you've got to limit to weekly working hours, which must not exceed 48 hours on average, including any overtime. So this prevents anyone from, as I said, working too many hours that they become ill, or making sure they have a rest during working hours. This is part of the law. And a minimum weekly rest of 24 uninterrupted hours for each 7-day period. And they're also allowed a paid annual leave for at least 4 weeks per year. Then you have the Employment Act 2002. This is which was reached in the UK Statute Book in 2002, which introduces new provisions concerning family-friendly working, the resolution of individual disputes at the workplace. This is just making sure that the main requirements at this time of the information looks at the employer and the trade union views of the new legislation. So this is just generally giving them some sort of like pastoral care, making sure that all employees are looked after. And then you've got the national minimum wage, which is the minimum wage paid per hour. Almost all workers are entitled to this by law. This does depend on your age, however, so if you're under 18, I think it's around £3. It's very minimal, it's about £3.80, I think, and then once you get above 18, then it changes. It doesn't matter how small an employee is, they still have to meet this minimum wage. And lastly, you've got the Data Protection Act. This is to make sure that any data doesn't get released. If a company promises that they won't give it out, then they have to stick to it. They can't be giving it out to third parties, as some companies do sell off data. And then you've got ethical issues. Again, this is organisations compromise employees who need respect as people. Streamlining has led to downsizing or right-sizing of organisations. And it's just making sure that discriminatory recruitment practices may inhibit the success of women or people from minority backgrounds but other applicants. This is just making sure, again, about everyone should be treated in the same way, and that it shouldn't matter where you come from or what ethnicity you are, you should get the same rights. Just like disabled people, everyone should be treated the same. Thank you for listening to my P1 and P2. My name is Kate Horn. Thank you.